everybody, I just want to tell you how excited I am to have Jerica. How do you call yourself, Jerica? Would you tell us?
I say I'm a dating and love coach for women, and I help women find the good men, choose the right one, and start their forever relationship off right.
I'm so excited because today we are going to talk about online dating. So many women are struggling with dating in general, and so many people in general are so tired of online dating specifically. So would you tell us a little bit more about what are some of the mistakes that women make when it comes to online dating?
Well, I think the main thing, there's a bunch of things, and we'll probably hit on most, if not all of them, but the main thing is kind of like the mindset that you want to go into it with, which is that online dating is just a tool. I think like subconsciously, we tend to think like it's almost like a matchmaker. Like these are supposed to be men that like somebody up there thought would be good with. And that's really not what online dating is. It's only an opportunity to put you in front of men. That's it. So you can, if you don't want to do online dating, you can go to singles events, you can go to meetup groups, you can go anywhere where you know that there's men around your age and hopefully single, or you can use online dating. But it just like if you go to a party, that doesn't mean you're going to connect with the people at a party or at a singles event or a speed dating event. Exactly the same thing with online dating. It's just a tool. And so if you can use the tool with specific strategies, and that's probably what we'll get into as well, it'll kind of help, but it's not some magical potion, fairy dust, unicorn situation.
Yeah, it's just another way basically to meet people, and it's almost like a numbers game, because when I think of dating, it's a tool, and people kind of conflate it with relationship. They think that dating is relationships, so that's why they get fried. One person said, and it, like I can't give her credit because I don't remember, I just read it somewhere online, as a matter of fact. She said online dating doesn't work until it does, until you meet somebody that it works. So it's kind of what I tell to my clients. It's just like, you know, put it there back on back burner and just engage when you feel like it. You know, don't put all your eggs in that basket. As you said, there's so many other ways to meet people, maybe better ways, you know, in some instances, depending where you are geographically, and sometimes you may have to extend, you know, with online dating, it's like supplement.
Exactly. Well, I can get more specific about some of the other mistakes that I think that are made. But you kind of already mentioned like this whole idea of burnout. And that's very, very common with online dating. That's the main problem with online dating, is just like you get burnt out with it. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. And one of the reasons is that you waste a lot of time. You spend a lot of time doing all this messaging, doing all this swiping, doing all of this stuff. So that leads you to feel burnt out because you spent all this time doing this and it doesn't go very far. And then the other reason is the emotional kind of roller coaster that goes along with it. Like you see somebody and he's so excited, and then you maybe you don't match with them, or you do match with them, but then it doesn't work out, or you start chatting and then it becomes a thing. So that's why one of my very first strategy tips that I'm going to give you, which is a little bit controversial, I think, but it goes back to what I said, to keep in mind of what is online dating for. It's to get you in front of men, right? So the idea is to meet them as soon as possible in the messaging back and forth. You don't waste time that way, and you don't get emotionally attached. So I kind of view online dating, and this is how I used it myself as well, is how can I get coffee dates with men, just to meet different men? I'm just going to talk to them. I'm just going to be curious, just like I would be at a party. I wouldn't be expecting necessarily. I would be interested. I would be hopeful. I would be open, to something happening if I met somebody at a party or some kind of singles dance or something. But I wouldn't have this like heavy expectation. So it's kind of the same thing with these coffee dates. It would be like, how can I get some coffee dates?
Mm-hmm.
And so moving it from matching with him a couple texts back and forth and then go to the coffee date as soon as possible so that you can eliminate then, he's not going to work. He was a nice guy, or maybe he wasn't a nice guy, or he was boring, or whatever it is, but you don't keep going with this time investment, and you don't get your emotions invested in it. And that's what causes this roller coaster. That's what causes the burnout. So that's one way to avoid it.
And it exactly ties up with what I'm saying. You know, you conflated already with relationship, and you said you spend so much time going back and forth, you know, and you invest your emotions. Like I see one of the big mistakes that women make, especially if you have anxious attachment style, is that you are the one who feels like, how do I propel this relationship? How do I make sure that he will like me? Instead of just kind of going out there and meeting people, you know, like don't consider it, oh, this is my potential future husband, you know. It's more about, oh, who's this guy? Let me meet him. Let me see who he is. You know, what is he about? More kind of like a friendship level. That's my take. What do you think about it?
Well, what I really like about what you just said and what I advise to my clients is to when you're meeting these men, to be open and curious. So not attached, but just very open, just like exactly what you were saying, just kind of wondering like, oh, I wonder what he's all about. And I wonder what kind of place we might go to. What is this coffee shop going to be like tonight? Or, you know, so it's not, you know, so hyper focused. That's what causes this emotional attachment, like you said, that causes all this anxiety. And like you said, like the woman wanting to propel things forward and move things forward. And what I would advise is more like kind of like sprinkling seeds. So you're kind of like trying to meet lots of different men, and then you're waiting to see kind of, you know, partly, you know, who you want to move towards, but also who's coming towards you. And that part of the process should be really slow. Like you can meet as many men as you can in a short period of time. You can do that part fast if you want to. But the getting to know part should just be slow and open and curious. And that's where all the fun is. That's where the flirty, sexy fun is. Like, what's the rush? Enjoy.
Oh God, I love that, Jerica. I love that. Sprinkling the seeds. That is such a beautiful analogy. I will use that and give you credit, you know, when I talk about that, but it's such a great analogy. You mentioned that you should kind of not spend too much online, you know, but one of my readers asked, how do you weed out people that you shouldn't meet?
So I've kind of talked about it a little bit already, but when I was doing this, and this is the same thing I recommend for my clients, the main thing I was doing when I started messaging is, would I be willing to go on a coffee date with him? And that's it. So the bar was actually pretty low for that. Would I be willing to meet him? Because I'm only talking about like 10 messages back and forth, or even less, 4 or 5 messages him, 4 or 5 messages you. After that, I mean, I used to kind of laugh about it and say like, can he write in a full sentence? You know, did he not say anything offensive? Then I'm willing to meet him for coffee. I mean, that could be 20 minutes. And the great thing about 2020, with everybody knows Zoom now, you can just do a video date. And so it's a very low barrier, you know, 10 messages then to a video date, I think is very reasonable. And then if you kind of click on video, you know, then you can move it forward from there. But so yeah, that was my criteria was, you know, can he write in complete sentences? And, you know, before that, even I didn't have very many like red flag items, because here's another big principle that I think a lot of women make mistakes with, both in online dating and just in dating in general, is their what I call their funnel is upside down. So you want to have a funnel like this, where you have tons of men. That's the seeds that you've sprinkled, right? And then you have fewer that you actually meet up with, a few that you go on 1 or 2 dates with. And then at the end, of course, there's, you know, one beautiful flower that's grown from those seeds. But a lot of women look at it this way, and they are so picky in the beginning, they're weeding out everyone. And again, this leads back to that same thing we were already talking about, this being too attached too soon, because they've only allowed one person to pass all their criteria because they're not really thinking, am I willing to go on a coffee date with him? They're thinking, can I be in a long-term relationship with this person? Wow, and so if you think about it logically, that's a pretty crazy question to be asking if you're just looking at somebody's pictures. We all mostly just pictures with a little bit of text. We all know that's pretty superficial level. And if you're frustrated by online dating, that's one of the things you're frustrated by. So stop trying to use pictures to decide if you want to be in a relationship with someone. Look at their pictures to decide if you're willing to go on a date, one coffee date. That's it. Or just one video date. Like I said, it could even be less commitment than a coffee date.
That's great. And it kind of goes along with what I talk about when it comes to anxious attachment style. Mm-hmm. By slowing down this process, by having that funnel the way you describe, you can pause and think, how do I feel in his company? How do I feel mm-hmm. when he texts me or doesn't text me? Mm-hmm. So your emotions will tell you who should be worthy of you investing more of your efforts. So if you kind of allow yourself to experience company of more people, you will be able to see, oh, this guy treats me like this. Oh, this is how I should be treated. I love that. And then give yourself a chance to kind of change your, I call it neurological procedural tendency to just kind of go like a moth after light for this one particular guy. Now, tell me, how should a woman set her profile? Can you tell us a little bit more about details, about pictures and all of that?
Yes, definitely. Okay, so this is really interesting because men and women, of course, look at things differently and they use online dating differently. So this can be triggering or like difficult for women to hear, but we kind of already know that men are very visual. And so some women kind of like get upset by this, but really they're choosing mostly based on pictures. But instead of being offended by that and like wanting to hide ourselves, I would just say, put your pictures out there. Like, don't you want to know even before the coffee date if he's attracted to you? Like, yeah. You don't even want to go on a coffee date with him if he's not attracted to you. There's just no point. So definitely start with the pictures, and you want a nice clear headshot that's, kind of up close without sunglasses or like a hat on, so he can clearly see what your face looks like, of obviously an attractive picture, like we can all, spruce ourselves up or not so much. And also a full body shot so he can see what your full body looks like. Mm-hmm. I would say about 4 to 5 pictures total, and I would recommend that they all be by yourself. Sometimes people put friends in there and that causes problems, or maybe even their kids in there, and I don't necessarily recommend that. I would just put yourself in the pictures, one full headshot, one full body shot, maybe doing some different activities that makes you kind of stand out. So let's get to the rest of the profile then. So those are the pictures, but those are the most important thing. So spend the most time there. The other thing is about the written part. So again, this can be really irritating for us as women because we often think the written part is much more important. But I actually I like the dating sites that have very, very little written. Mm-hmm. Again, you're not looking at this to decide if he's your long-term relationship man. You're looking to see, will I go on a coffee date with him? So you actually don't want to be reading, and this goes back to the time wasting, the time suck. That's why I really like the sites that have, very, very little amount of text. But in that text, the thing that I would recommend is to somehow stand out, be somehow original or different. And, not like boring and just, I like gardening and hiking and the beach. I mean, it's kind of like, everybody kind of likes those things. And the other thing really to avoid is not to say what you don't want in the profile. That's just kind of a turnoff for anyone. Even like, for example, if I say like, don't be a sports lover, even if he's not a sports lover, it's kind of just a turnoff to like, ooh, she's really like
great. So, those are some great tips. They totally make sense.
Those are really the biggest ones. This is kind of like next level if you want your profile to really stand out. And this is not always the easiest to do. But in your profile, did you create like a space for that he can see himself in? So for example, if you say like, I like walking my dog and gardening and reading and those things, if he doesn't like taking long walks and gardening, which is probably a lower chance of that, then he's not necessarily going to see himself in that picture. So actually, I actually have a whole YouTube video about this, but one of the things that I recommend is like you could write like a short story, and it says like you da 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 da, like you take me to. So you're kind of planting that idea kind of in a way in his brain of like, here's where you would fit with me. Here's the kind of thing that I would like to do with you, and it shows him there's a place for him there.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. It's kind of giving him picture of what the life with you could be. It's lovely. Now, how can women ensure personal safety when it comes to online dating? Obviously, I mean, both. There is online safety. There is a lot of catfishing, and also when it comes to in person.
A lot of different things. One is just that something that we always have to deal with as women. So that's things like telling other people where you're going. When you're meeting somebody for coffee, first of all, always pick something close to you. If you want to like actually pick a place that the place, maybe you even know some of the people that hang out there. So it's very much like on your turf. So that's one idea. As far as before you meet, here's another reason why I really advocate this like 10 messages, then meet up thing. Because these online scammers, they are not going to want to meet you. If they're trying to just get your money, they're trying to draw it out. They're trying to create this emotional bond and then ask for your money. So they're not going to want to meet you. So that's another reason why that strategy eliminates that problem. And then the other thing I would advise is not to give out your personal information. So for me, when I was online dating, because my name is Jerica, it's a very uncommon name. And I knew that by knowing my location and my name and also my profession, they would immediately be able to find me, find my address, everything else. So I used a different name. And then usually just like on the coffee date or the first date, I would tell them, because by that time I felt comfortable because it goes by, my feelings. Right. So that, and I also had a Google Voice phone number. So the same thing goes with if you're doing, I wouldn't recommend FaceTime calls. I think there's different ways where you can do more of an anonymous video call so that he can't find out what your phone number is or all that good stuff because he can find you. So stay safe. Yes.
I mean, seriously, I've seen so many examples. Many of my readers contacted me and explained how they were part of this catfishing, I mean, there are people in relationships for a year or 2 years. There are people who got married with people, I don't know how you do that, who got engaged or whatever with people overseas. There's usually some kind of, story that they are either U.S. military overseas or something like that, and they all of a sudden there's some issue with their finances, and they want this money, they need money from you so that they can come and see you as soon as possible. I mean, it's so widely spread.
I mean, that story right there, if you hear any story, anything similar to that, cut off contact. I just posted on Instagram actually this little meme or like a little quote basically saying like a little reminder, if you're online dating, you're not actually dating someone if you haven't met them. Because again, I've had so many people, message me about, this guy that I'm dating, and then I'll start talking to them and I'm like, but you've never met him. And they're like, yeah, but we've been dating for a while. And I'm like, you're not dating. You're not dating. You're like, this is a pen pal. So I actually can tell a little story. This might have happened to me, But because of this kind of system that I made, I cut it off. I don't know for sure if this is who he was, but this was the guy who said he was like on an Alaska ship, like working on the ship. And so he was going to be out of the area for like 3 months. And so I just said, oh, okay, you know, that's great. Just contact me when you get to the area. And he tried to continue connecting with me, but I just didn't respond. And so again, like I was very clear from the beginning, like I'm not interested in a long distance relationship. And so, and I think it is just kind of generally suspicious. I'm not looking for a pen pal. I'm not looking for a long distance relationship. So eliminate. Back to that question about how do you eliminate? If they don't want to meet with you face to face, or they say they can't meet with you face to face, red flag. Stop talking to them.
Great information, Jerica. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask you one more question about COVID. We can't avoid that topic. And obviously, everybody needs to follow their rules and regulations wherever they are in the world. Yeah. But what are some basic tips that you can give us in terms of COVID and dating and safety?
Well, I think if you're talking COVID and online dating, there's actually some advantages to dating right now. I think there's more people online dating because you can't, you know, at least in my area, and it depends on where you are, but you can't really go to singles events. There aren't really dances. There aren't really parties. There aren't really meetup groups meeting up. So it kind of leaves online dating as the way to meet people. And you can easily go, like we talked about already, from messaging to video dates. And then once you feel comfortable, then you can move forward. And just like we would before COVID, before you swap germs with anyone in any way, you wait until you feel safe. You can talk about that with him. So if you're going to go on a walk, maybe as your first date, then you can talk about beforehand, like, do you want to wear masks? Are you comfortable not wearing masks? Like, exactly what do you want to do there? But I think there actually are some advantages. People are kind of going a little bit slower maybe, and there are more people online. So it's a tool that can be used. And I think if you use some of these strategies that we talked about, it can kind of lessen some of the yuck that so many people associate with it. But a lot of it is going into it with the right mindset.
Well, thank you so much, Jerica. This was amazing contribution to my audience. I just wanted to ask you, where can people find you?
Well, one of my favorite places to hang out is where we met, Dalila, on Instagram. And I am Love Coach Jerica there. And also on my website, which is lovecoachjerica.com, I do have a little freebie for your viewers that is all about that part I talked about, starting your relationship off right. And it's kind of a jump start to that actually goes into some of these kind of details and framework that we talked about for kind of early dating, the meeting men and how do you navigate those early stages and going slow and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and I've just enjoyed so much. I've really just had so much fun interacting with you on Instagram, and it's just been a pleasure. And I can't wait to meet you someday in person.
Yeah, that would be great. And everybody visit Jerica on Instagram. I will post all the links below, wherever it's going to be, on YouTube, Facebook, IGTV, and my blog.
Great. Appreciate it.
Have a good day, week, month, hopefully next year, everybody.